Thank you for joining us. Israel's Independence Day is a time to celebrate and to remember. Israel is a land of great achievements and history. The historic homeland of the Jewish people who were exiled and persecuted for over 2,000 years, and now, since 1948, have returned to rebuild. They've turned barren land into green fields, and they've actually made the desert bloom. Israel is now a world leader in high tech and in research and industry, and also in medicine, education, culture, and so much more. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu will share his thoughts on this historic holiday, followed by interviews with Ambassador Danon and Governor Mike Huckabee. Following these messages.
Human age reversal. We may be there already. Human studies are now ready to begin to confirm meaningful reversal of pathological aging processes. These clinical trials aim to alter older humans so that they function as much younger individuals. Even modest success will result in a paradigm shift that will impart enormous societal benefits, such as sparing Medicare from insolvency. Life extension is not standing idle while 5,000 Americans die each day from age-related illnesses. Joining us are physician scientists who want to hurry up these technologies to keep people from aging to death. While life extension is pushing these projects forward, we need financial help to ensure these studies are carried through to fruition.
Carrier asks, what does comfort mean to you? Is it a cool breeze on a scorching day? Or a cozy corner on a cold night? That every room of the house is as inviting as the next. And the air is fresh and clean for everyone. That humidity is where it belongs. At Carrier, comfort means more than just the temperature. And the people who invented modern air conditioning keep inventing new ways to make you comfortable, however you define it.
And then they showed me a world where I could be so dependable, oh, intellectual, cynical.
Find magic again. Sprout by HP. With Intel RealSense technology inside, now you can bend the rules of creativity outside.
Regards from Jerusalem on Israel's Independence Day. We had been scattered around the world for millennia, and then we returned to our ancient homeland to build a safe haven where we could live and thrive. Now, many doubted that this tiny state of Israel would survive. We were surrounded by hostile enemies who attacked us again and again. So perhaps, for some, this skepticism was warranted. But survive we did. Much more than that. We thrived. Today, Israel is strong, democratic, prosperous. אני אוהב את המדינה שלנו, את החיילות והחיילים, השוטרות והשוטרים, נשות ואנשי השב"כ והמוסד, שעושים הכל כדי לשמור על ביטחון ישראל. אני אוהב את ירושלים, בירתנו הנצחית לה קיווינו זה יותר מ2000 שנה. היא מרגשת אותי כל פעם מחדש. אני גאה בבניין הארץ, כבישים, מחלפים, רכבות ונמלים, ערים ויישובים. אני גאה במדינת ישראל, שהיא קודם כל בית, בית לכל יהודי העולם, בית לכל אזרחי ישראל, יהודים ולא יהודים כאחד. זהו הבית שלנו. אני מתרגש מעומק ליבי כשאני פוגש את העולים, את החיילים הבודדים שבאים להגן על ישראל, את הישראלים היפים שבונים את הסיפור של כולנו. מדינת ישראל פורחת והיא חזקה מאי פעם. צבא ההגנה לישראל מתעצם ומתחזק ומוכן אל מול כל אתגר. אני גאה לעמוד בראש מדינה שהיא מגדלור של חדשנות ועוצמה, אור לעולם, מופת לעמים. לפני שקמה מדינת ישראל, העם היהודי היה חסר ישע, ביקש עזרה מאחרים. היום מדינות רבות מבקשות עזרה מאיתנו, הן רוצות להצטרף לסיפור ההצלחה של ישראל. איזה מהפך כביר בהיסטוריה היהודית. ישראל היא החלום הגדול של עמנו, חלום שהתגשם. עוד הרבה אתגרים לפנינו, אבל אני בטוח שנוכל להם. נמשיך לשמור על מדינת ישראל, להגן על ביטחוננו, לשמור על גבולותינו, לבנות את ארצנו. חג עצמאות שמח, מדינת ישראל. Israel will continue to thrive, be strong, and prosperous. Our story is a story of hope, not just for the Jewish people, but for all of humanity. We persevere through adversity against all odds. Anyone fighting for a just cause, fighting against seemingly insurmountable odds, could draw inspiration from our story. Happy Independence Day to all of our friends around the world.
With us now is Ambassador Danon. Danny, it's such a pleasure to have you
Hello,
back.
great to see you.
Good to have you back on the show.
Absolutely, good to be here.
It is such an interesting time in history, and you are now in the United Nations. You were a minister the last time we interviewed, and thank God things seem to be in the world getting better and better. What are your thoughts?
We're celebrating 70 years of miracles, and Israel is an amazing miracle. And me representing Israel in the UN, every day I see the miracle of more and more countries coming to support Israel, to stand with Israel. We feel the change at the UN.
It's astonishing. And Nikki Haley, your colleague, is doing a magnificent job. Baruch Hashem, thank God.
Indeed, the Ambassador Haley, she's a great friend of Israel. I have accompanied her in her first visit to Israel last June, and she's a strong supporter of the state of Israel. And we're seeing other countries following the leadership of the US. Take, for example, the issue of the embassy. We are grateful for President Trump for deciding to move the embassy to Jerusalem, and we saw Guatemala following the US, and I believe in the near future we will see more and more countries following this brave decision.
And contrary to what many critics might say, I would say things seem to be more optimistic in the world, in the Middle East also.
Well, in one hand, we are optimistic because we see Israel blooming, the innovation, technology. On the other hand, we see the atrocities in Syria, and we are worried about it. We are worried about it. It's very close to our border, and we see the chaos in the region. Israel is a beacon of democracy, a beacon of freedom. We have to work very hard to safeguard this island of stability in the region.
It seems that Israel is subjected to atrocious criticism and double standards in the world by the media. Hasbara, public diplomacy is so important. What are your thoughts on that?
That's what we are doing right now. We are telling the true story about Israel. We are telling the facts, and that's what I do at the UN. I even bought a coin from the city of David, dated 67 AD. And I showed it to the ambassador. I told them, you cannot say we have no connection to Jerusalem. You cannot argue with those facts, but it's an ongoing struggle. It's a marathon. You cannot win this fight overnight. You need to wake up every morning and continue to reveal the truth about Israel.
Absolutely. And of course, Jerusalem was founded by King David and Solomon 1700 years before Islam.
Indeed. And then so that's why we are very proud of the decision to move the embassy. You know, Jerusalem has been the capital of Israel, is the capital, and will ever be the united capital of the Jewish people.
Absolutely. Thank you so very much,
Thank
Mr.
you very
Ambassador.
much. Thank you very much.
Thank you. With us now is Governor Mike Huckabee. Sir, a real pleasure and honor to have you with us here today.
Thank you. My pleasure indeed.
So much is happening in history, and I remember the days you were running for office and all the amazing speeches you have conducted all the way back throughout your career, and on television, of course. And here we are today in 2018. A very interesting time in history. What are your thoughts on that?
It's an exciting time for many reasons. I think the United States is coming back as a strong nation. I believe President Trump's message and what he has accomplished in his first year, making it very clear that America is not going to bow down to terrorists and thugs around the world. We're going to push forward with our true friendships. I was so very happy that he announced the location and recognition of Jerusalem as the eternal and indigenous forever home of the Jewish state. That was very significant. The Vice President's speech this week indicating that it will happen sooner, not later, was again an encouragement. And for all of the talk, this would just create havoc in the Middle East. It didn't. It didn't, because deep down, even Israel's critics have to admit that the only capital that the Jewish people have ever had is Jerusalem. And Jerusalem has only been the capital for one people, the Jewish people. It was never the capital of the Jordanians. It was never the capital of the Egyptians. It was never the capital of anybody, including the Palestinians. And for them to say otherwise is disingenuous and dishonest.
And of course, Jerusalem was founded by King David and Solomon 3,000 years ago. And Islam actually was founded 700 years after Christ. So it is kind of, in some people's views, totally preposterous.
Well, it is preposterous. I've been personally going to Israel since 1973. So this year marks my 45th year of making trips to Israel. I was there in December. I'll be there again in February and again in May. I was there 4 times last year. It's not unusual for me to be there at least that many times. I've seen this incredible country over the past 45 years since I've personally seen it with my own eyes. And what I've noticed is that the only explanation for Israel is God. And I say that with awe and reverence because there's been truly a biblical fulfillment when the prophet said that the dry bones shall live again and the desert will bloom. Well, that's not just empty rhetoric, that's reality. Israel has truly been the nation that was once dry bones and now it's incredibly alive. And the desert, places I went to 45 years ago that had absolutely nothing but rocks and dirt, now are lush with vegetation. And Israel is exporting fruit and vegetables all over the world.
How interesting it is that past administrations made comments, visited occasionally perhaps through emissaries, but nothing really happened, nothing improved really. Yet some people are claiming that there's real progress in the Middle East as a result of some real decisions. What are your thoughts on that?
There's no doubt. The president's trip last year when he met with the Gulf state leaders in Riyadh, that was an important moment because he had them at least agreeing that they had to unite in fighting terrorism. Deep down, many of us know that many of the Arab-led countries no longer see Israel as their threat. They know Israel is not their enemy, not their threat. Publicly, they may still beat their chest and say things, but deep down, Israel's never going to invade Saudi Arabia or Qatar or the UAE or Kuwait. But what everyone needs to be worried about is Iran. And that's where I think a new focus is. I'm personally very pleased to see that with the kind of leadership that the president has brought and his ability to get some of these other countries to quit fighting each other so much and to unite against their common and real threat, that's a big step forward, something we have not seen. One other thing that I've noticed, many of the countries, whether it's Iran or North Korea, they may not like the United States, but they fear us. They respect what this president will do. And the truth is they don't know what he will do, but they fear what he will do. And that is a good place for us to be in.
And there are so many reasons for optimism. What message would you like to convey to our audience as we look into the future?
I don't think the U.S. and Israeli relationships have ever been better than they are right now. We've always had great relationships, but I do think that we are at a new zenith of relationships and alliances. What I hope is that we build on it. The Israelis have created technology that we depend upon, that the world depends upon. I want to see an end to the BDS movement. It is irrational, it's anti-Semitic, it's completely insane. And those who have pushed it at the expense, not just of Israel, but at the expense of many of the Palestinian people whose best job in their lives were working for Israeli companies. I've personally been to factories in Ariel and also the SodaStream factory south of Jerusalem in Judea, where they were working side by side, Muslim and Jew, male and female. But the BDS movement would have that stopped, despite the fact that the people working there got 4 times a paycheck than they'd ever received in their lives. This is something that needs to be exposed and eradicated, because it's detrimental, not just to peace, it's detrimental to the people who least can afford to be without an income.
Sir, what are your thoughts with regard to the fake news and the lies by omission perpetrated in media also with regard to the Middle East? Exaggerating events on one side and omitting others on the other.
It's something that obviously Israel has had to live with since their inception in modern days for the past 70 years. But it has gotten worse in so many ways. I do believe that it's critical that people become their own editor, that they question what the news media tells them. I believe in a free press. I truly do. I want the press never to be impeded by the government to have their liberty. But I also want them to be a responsible press, because if they're not a responsible press, they really have an impact on the very freedom of this country, which is hurtful to their profession, but it's hurtful to all of us.
Sir, a question many people would like to hear from you, an answer to, is your thoughts with regard to a two-state solution.
For the most part, it's a diplomatic proposal that is unrealistic. The idea that 2 people can share the same piece of real estate with 2 competing governments, it simply doesn't work. I mean, it would be like having a couple who were divorced, they married new partners, and they're all going to live in the same house together. It doesn't work. Now, if there's a 2-state solution, but it doesn't include taking away the land that God gave to Israel, and if whether it's down in the Sinai or somewhere in Jordan or in Saudi Arabia, they want to carve out some land, that's one thing. But you cannot put a nation on top of the real estate that all the way back to the time of Abraham was given to the Jewish people. So when people say, well, when did the Jews get that property? It wasn't 1948, nor is it 73 or 67, nor was it 1917 in the Balfour Agreement. This goes to the time of Abraham, and that's where the title comes from. So we need to be very clear, and I think the American policy, we need to quit pretending that there's going to be some diplomatic solution that involves the taking of Judea and Samaria, because I don't think that's realistic. And so far, anytime Israel has given up land for peace, they've lost land, but they didn't gain peace.
That, unfortunately, is the sad truth. Sir, a final statement for our audience before we conclude.
I want to tell people that if they've never been to Israel, they need to go. See it firsthand. I take literally hundreds of people every year. Over the years, I've taken thousands of people to Israel. every one of them, when they come back, become ambassadors for this wonderful nation. And if they have been, use what you know to let people realize what a special place this is.
Sir, a real privilege and an honor. Thank you so very
Thank
much.
you. Very pleased to get to be with you.
I'll be right back.
As cool as wine, the wind is sighing through silent mountain pines. The evening light is slowly dying as bells of evening chime. So many songs, so many stories, the rocks and hills recall. Within your heart, inside the city, the ancient stones, the wall. Jerusalem, Jerusalem, forever young, forever old. My heart will sing your song of glory. Jerusalem, 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 oh city with a heart of gold. My heart will sing your song of glory. Jerusalem. My heart will sing your song of glory, my
With us now is Deputy Consul General Guy Gilady. A pleasure and privilege to have you with us today.
Thank you.
What are your thoughts with regard to the peace process and the possibility of creating more progress in that area?
Well, I have to say that when it comes to the peace process, I think when you look at the Arab world in general, especially the Sunni moderate world, that how we call it, we see a great deal of opportunity for peace between Israel and the Arab world. And this is mainly based on interest and economics. The Arab world encounters the same challenges that that other nations do, of water, of energy, of communications, of food. This is all something that we share. And these Israeli solutions are beginning to be more appealing also to our neighbors. Right now, things are being done more under the surface, and we hope that things will become more vivid. But I am very optimistic when it comes to Israel's relation with the Arab world.
Wonderful thoughts, and I want to thank you so very much for being with us today, sir.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Human age reversal. We may be there already. Human studies are now ready to begin to confirm meaningful reversal of pathological aging processes. These clinical trials aim to alter older humans so that they function as much younger individuals. Even modest success will result in a paradigm shift that will impart enormous societal benefits, such as sparing Medicare from insolvency. Life extension is not standing idle while 5,000 Americans die each day from age-related illnesses. Joining us are physician scientists who want to hurry up these technologies to keep people from aging to death. While life extension is pushing these projects forward, we need financial help to ensure these studies are carried through to fruition.
This concludes our special show for today. I'm Maya Brandt, and thank you for being with us.